There's one big difference between this family and my family here at his place. This family lives in the Philippines, on the island of Luzon, in the mountain jungle area of the province of Benguet, 7,000 miles from here. Now hold it. Before I go any further, let me make one thing clear. I keep saying this other family I have. Well, without my precious wife Judy of 60 years, who partnered with me on this adventure, it would have never happened. And I wouldn't be here today telling you about it. Could God have used me without Judy? Duh, God can do anything. But God wanted it done right. And He didn't want to have to work overtime. So, He sent Judy with me. God's no dummy. He knows a good thing when He's got it. So how in the stinking world did this all start? Well, in 1986, Judy and I ran into a guy named Jesus. He messed with all our stuff and our heart, and we both got led to the Lord by my longtime friend, Pastor Larry, and the two of us were radically saved. We chaperoned one of our youth groups from his place to Mexico on a mission trip and got excited about missions. Sold our Ford dealership and our house in Anacortes that we had lived in for 30 years, and we set out to save the world. We started our missionary training at a school called YWAM in Kona, Hawaii. You know, suffering for the Lord in Hawaii. We might have been radically saved, but we weren't brain dead. Our first job after YWAM was building a church in Japan. While we were there, we got a call from a missionary friend of mine who said there was a Filipino lady that needed help building the first church to reach her own unreached people group called the Ibaloi. Before we got there, her own people had stoned her, not allowed her to ride the public jeep, the only one in and out of the jungle, and they tried to set her on fire and threatened to shoot her. You see, the Ibaloi people didn't want to hear about another god because they already had a god and a witch doctor who had them making animal sacrifices to appease this god. But she not only lived through those attacks, but kept making that 4 to 6 hour journey through the jungle to preach to them. So they started listening, and she raised up a handful of young men as believers. So, after finishing our work in Japan, we changed our return flight from Seattle, Washington to Manila, Philippines. We didn't have a clue where we were going, what we were going to do when we got there, and we didn't care. We were adventurous and borderline crazy, so off we went. And oh yeah, we took Jesus with us. We were crazy, but we weren't stupid. There are 7,004 islands in the Philippines, depending on high or low tide. But we got to the island of Luzon, and without going into all the details of the 2 days of searching, we found a lady called Andessa Bautista in a jungle mountainous area in a village called Calu. So, when Judy and I got there, we joined up with them and helped build the first church to reach the Ibaloi. Judy and I lived there in Calu with our new Filipino family until we finished the first church in March of '93. Now, there are a lot of similarities between Judy and my family here at his place and our family in Calu. One day, in the early 90s, while we were living in Calu, one of the ladies gave birth to a little boy, and wanted me to bless her newly born child. Now, when I say newly born, I mean newly. I went to her little house, not the hospital delivery room, and held and blessed that little boy. Years later, I baptized him in the Philippine Sea, and then a few years later, did his wedding. Sounds familiar to my family here. Anyway, that's a quick look at how it all got started. But a lot has been going on over the last 30 years. There are many parts to our Philippine ministry that you have been faithfully praying for and financially supporting. You have built 5 daycare centers, a 2-year Bible college with 12 students enrolled each year, a Christian school, Blessed His Place Academy, kindergarten through high school, with 110 kids enrolled each year, an orphanage, His Place Children's Home, with 60 abused and abandoned children being fed, clothed, loved on, and raised to know their Savior. And the planting and building of 14 churches all throughout the jungle, mountainous terrain on the island of Luzon. One of the churches you built that a group of us hiked up to into the mountains to dedicate a few years ago was located at about 7,000 feet. And there's a couple other outreaches your main church in Kalu does to reach out to the young people in all the surrounding villages. They hold 2 youth camps, one for the young kids and one for the teenagers. Both camps bring in a lot of kids, and one of them this year brought in over 400 kids. And Des is also doing baptisms all the time. And this picture shows her baptizing over 30 at one of our new churches in San Lorenzo. So there you go. I just wanted to bring you up, my His Place family, up to speed on my and your Filipino family. The